We are live, and hello, and welcome to the MovieBoozer.com Pubcast. I'm your host, Cam Ekman, and I'm joined by Bill Arsenault.
What's up?
And Bill Leon.
How do? We've done 90 of these fucking things.
We have.
Yeah, can you believe it? I mean, like
technically 91, but there were two episode 15s, and episode 69 just disappeared into the ether.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I think if it's gonna disappear and be a lost episode, it may as well be number 69.
It was 69. That's.
So with that said, our presence may be graced by the golden child of Hawk
Ripjaw, yeah.
And
we might hear some noise on your end.
Yes, there may be some noise and some weird lighting on my end. Just because right now there's some construction outside of my house, and unfortunately I couldn't do anything about it. So,
can you imagine if you tried to do something about it? Like you go out there, like I'm trying to film a podcast.
They're like, "What's a podcast?"
Film a podcast. God damn it! This is more important.
And then the Mexicans who are working on your gutters are like, "What's a podcast?"
I'm trying to talk about the implications David Fincher has on society, and you're out here taking gutters off the. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, just walk out. Fuck your gutters. I mean, I guess they're technically my gutters. Fuck my gutters.
You take a piece of gutter, you break it over your leg, and you're like, "You see that? Fuck that."
Hold, let me digest that a second. Fuck my gutters. That's kind of gross.
Well, you can't. Well, the gutter isn't a total hole. It's like half a hole, so you can't really. You can maybe hump it. Or something.
So,
I don't know. It's kind of a canal, so I guess you could do something to it. I don't know.
So we're off the rails awfully early.
Do you have a beer to talk about, Ken?
I do not. But that's simply because I'm still getting over a cold, and cough syrup is something which does not go well with alcohol. So, anyway.
Well, scissor. I mean, that's not alcohol, but I mean, you could make a drink out of it, So
hit up Lil Wayne.
Hit up Lil Wayne, right?
Yeah.
I'm not advocating this, by the way. I'm just I'm just saying some people do it.
Making a drink out of cough syrup. The next step would be if the next drink I talk about involved a loaf of bread and a can of Sterno and
fermentation or whatever.
Well, no, it's not fermentation.
What are you talking about?
It's an old hobo's trick to get drunk. You basically those canned.
Yeah, Sterno, yeah.
You take a loaf of bread or a sponge or anything that soaks up things. You put it in the Sterno and it soaks up the methyl alcohol.
Ooh.
And basically, you either eat the bread or you wring it into a glass and you mix it with something.
That's pretty messed up. I mean, but
you'll probably go blind in the process because it is wood alcohol, which is toxic, more toxic rather than ethyl alcohol. So, but the point is, it's something that is done, and during the Depression era in particular,
done a lot.
Yes. So if I'm feeling old-timey, maybe I'll make myself some. Actually, if you've ever heard of the band Canned Heat, that's the name of the cocktail.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yeah, Canned Heat.
Put on some old ragtimey music and get fucked up to your hooch that you made out of a dirty can.
Some bathtub gin.
Oh boy!
Oh man, that would make this the most skeezy podcast.
Well, what would you call it though? What would you call your bathtub gin? I mean, like, what did Kramer on Seinfeld call his salad anything? The salad he made out in the shower. Remember that?
No, I think Bum Killer Ale.
Bum Killer Ale. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine would have to be something related to the bathtub. Like the scum that appears on the side of the bathtub, but next to the wall. I mean, what's that called? The bath, it's not soap mold, scum? But soap scum. I'd call it something along those lines. It's not quite appealing, but neither is making alcohol in your bathtub.
Yeah. We're way off the rails here.
Well, this is what happens on podcasts, and this is the 90th episode, so I think it's okay for us to to go off a little bit, you know.
Well, let me bring us back home then. Watching one of the films this weekend, the first film we're going to be talking about, kind of made me feel like I needed some canned heat.
Now, hang on. I'm assuming the movie you're talking about is going to be one that we're going to talk at length about. Should we start with this one, or should we start with the other movie first, and then get into this one?
And then segue into it?
Yeah, because I think this one is going to be the main event, essentially, because we have a past history with this one.
That is true. I will revise my mindset to actually say that both films this weekend kind of, for different reasons, kind of made me feel like I needed some.
I would agree with that. I think both movies we're going to talk about are kind of canned heat movies in different ways.
Yes. Gone Girl is the latest film directed by David Fincher.
Fincher!
Yes. And
Fincher!
Starring Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, Neil Patrick Harris, Tyler Perry. Yes, Tyler Perry.
Well, I heard he's good in it, and I know
he is good in it, and we'll get into it. I have a particular theory about the casting that I'd like to discuss at a certain point, but
we'll get to that in a moment. First thing I need to mention, it's based on the book Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn, who is also the writer of the screenplay.
That was a #1 bestseller, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It was a #1 bestseller because, in particular, of the way it was marketed to the middle-aged female reader audience, which is the #1 market that you're going to get.
Jillian.
Some whodunits.
Jillian, you sly dog, you.
This is pre-50 Shades?
Yes, this is pre-50 Shades. Gone Girl, I believe, came out... You know what, let me look up the novel itself. The novel came... Oh, you know what? Actually, no, I take it back. It came out right, I would say...
Around the time?
Well, let's see, June 2012. 50 Shades was 11, wasn't it?
You got me. I don't remember.
I don't know or care.
Yes, I was correct. May 25th, 2011 was the publishing date.
I should know because I had a female roommate at the time that was reading those books, and I would take the books and read them in Michael Caine's voice.
I don't know the context of this, but that's
There's no
cool.
It's funny to read things in Michael Caine's voice. Also, Dark Knight Rises had just come out.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
I think after listening to Rob Paulson's comedy podcast today, I'm more convinced than ever that Gregory Peck's voice should be used for all ridiculous narrative.
There was a Family Guy skit where they were like, "This is worse than the time you took a road trip with Gregory Peck's family, and everyone in the family looks exactly like Gregory Peck and talks like Gregory Peck, and so they're driving the car. They're driving the car like, 'You kids, knock it off, or I will pull this car over.' And they're like, 'But Dad, he started it.'" You know?
Yeah, I can't for the life of me do an impression, and if I attempted to, it would be dishonest and unfair to Gregory Peck, who is one of my favorite actors.
I tried to when I was a kid because I was a huge fan of Roman Holiday growing up, and I still am a fan of it. But you know, that is a difficult thing to pull off. It's almost like trying to do Jack Palance in a way, although he's a lot easier. But it's similar because they both got somewhat gruffy cadences to their voices. But yeah, no, doing a Gregory Peck would be a disservice to the great man.
Yeah, I mean his voice. I mean, okay, I may as well attempt it just because.
I guess, yeah, all right.
If I would only say that this is the film that inspired millions, it is Gone Girl, the story of a man and his wedding anniversary being accused of murder.
You know, doing his voice...
That was an attempt.
That attempt sounds like doing Gregory Peck while trying to hold back a burp.
Yeah. I'm not exactly a good improviser, so if I had something...
That wasn't bad, though. That wasn't bad.
Here we go. Tell you what, I will try this one more time,
Okay.
And I will just read the first couple sentences of the plot as listed on Wikipedia.
Of Gone Girl.
Of Gone Girl.
Okay.
On
All
the
right.
day of his 5th wedding anniversary, Nick Dunn returns home to find that his wife Amy is missing. Her disappearance creates a media frenzy, and his awkward behavior and lies surrounding the marriage are interpreted by the media's public as characteristics of a sociopath. Did that work at all, or am I just...
Eh. It wasn't that bad. It was just, I think we had already done the voice, so it kind of just was like, all right, we did it a little too much.
Okay.
But that wasn't horrible. I mean, it got the point across.
All right, well, I'll take some improv classes, and then I'll come back to you. How about that?
Okay.
That is on my docket of something I need to do at some point.
I bet you anything, Gregory Peck is something done in improv classes.
Mm. Oh, certainly.
I have no idea.
Gone Girl. The movie is David Fincher's latest film, and Fincher is a filmmaker who, I would say at the very least, you cannot accuse him of not having a distinctive and noteworthy style. He brings style in droves to every film that he's done.
He's got a very cinematic style, a universal cinematic style, I would call it. It's not. It's kind of like there was a commentary track Joss Whedon did for an episode of The Office he directed, and he said for TV shows, especially like The Office, as a director, you can't bring in a very obvious signature to the story because that will kind of overpower the show. But there are little techniques you can do that can kind of bring some flair to it. And I think Fincher is one of those directors who's very good at not being too obvious with his style, but still being stylistic, if that makes any sense at all. I mean, because I can watch a Fincher movie, and go, okay, this is Fincher, but it's not like in your face, pounding you over the head, I'm David Fincher. It's just a movie that he directed, and you know it because you read it in the credits.
It's to use the music analogy. It's sort of like how there's some guitarists who bring a ton of style to the game, and you can tell them like instantly who they are. But on the other hand, there's some whose guitar style is, it's
a little more subtle.
It's more subtle, and it's very solid and dependable. But it's not necessarily like something you could instantly recognize as, as a style exercise. It just, if he's playing blues rock, it sounds like blues rock, and very.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe that's not the best analogy.
No, not necessarily. That works. He's.
I'll give you. This isn't a great example in terms of Fincher, but in terms of guitarists. Like Weird Al's guitarist can play like anything, but he can mimic styles and bring personalities to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's not just like a session player that's in genre mode doing a 3-chord blues song. Like with that guy, he'll be specifically mimicking somebody and bring their personality to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that I think that makes sense with regards to Fincher.
Yeah, I mean, as an exercise in style, I mean, if you watched House of Cards, like the first episode, and I think he had directed one other episode, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, and Gone Girl, you would notice a very solid similarity in all of those in terms of the way they're filmed.
Definitely, there is definitely an atmosphere and a kind of a look to the photography, almost a fogginess, if that makes any sense. Like
it's kind of an ethereal
ethereal. That's very good.
All of them have this. Actually, the term I would use is a brooding atmosphere, because all of the films have this air of just something dark looming on the horizon.
And they're all about different things. The Social Network is like a Rashomon. Well, you know what I mean, like different in terms of content. Like
no, I was taking issue. Like my main issue with David Fincher is like, from what I've seen, I haven't seen all of his films, but from what I've seen, like there's a lot of times where he he needs to let up on the tenseness in certain scenes, but doesn't. So there will be like okay, Social Network. There's a scene where Justin Timberlake and Jesse Eisenberg are being blown in a bathroom, and it feels tense as shit. And I'm like, why? Why? Like, calm down. Let him get blown.
Was it Justin Timberlake getting blown with Jesse? I thought it was him and Andrew Garfield.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen it.
It's been a while, yeah.
I remember that bathroom scene being tense.
The groupie scene, yeah. And it was
very bicker and argue about who blew who.
Well, who was blown with who, you know, because they were getting it together, not, you know. But and then afterwards they're like, we got groupies, you know. Yeah, there's always this underlying tension, and even in scenes where there shouldn't be, you know, like Justin Timberlake and Jesse Eisenberg talking in a nightclub. You know, the music is pumping, it's loud, you can barely hear them, but it's uncomfortable at the same time. And now it is supposed to be uncomfortable because the conversation they're having is very important, but it's also kind of a mundane situation that you wouldn't expect to be filled with this tension. Like in real life, they would just be two guys talking. But in a Fincher movie, it's more than that, you know? So you could do a whole parody sketch on Fincher movies, you know, like if my life was directed by David Fincher. You know, eating a Big Mac would be tension-filled, you know?
So with Gone Girl, the question that I have is this film that we really want to get into spoilers with or not?
I think we're going to have to in order to get into some of the nuts and bolts of it. And also because, like, isn't it slightly different from the book in terms of how the twist, if you will, is laid out?
My understanding is the characterization of some of the tertiary characters and the way they treat the situation is different, but the core events occur more or less as they occur in the book.
Okay, because the way I thought of it was in the book, the story kind of goes about almost like a mystery, and then somewhere near the end or around the halfway point, it's the revelation comes out. But in this movie, it happens more kind of in the middle, but more closer to the beginning when it's really revealed what's going on, and then we follow that storyline too, and I don't know. It felt a little different. Structured, okay.
My understanding is it's structured differently. But let's then explore the plot. The film opens on the day of his 5th wedding anniversary with Ben Affleck.
And Rosamund Pike.
Right. He wakes up in the morning, does a few chores, and then immediately, I'm assuming it's probably 8 or 9 in the morning at the latest, he immediately goes to the bar and has a drink.
Now, this is a bar that he co-owns with, or co-runs with his sister, and he has a conversation with her, and they talk about their troubles. He has a drink, you know. It's still kind of like, what the fuck? Why are you drinking this early in the morning? But at the same time,
he indicates the main reason is because it's his ongoing issues with his wife, which is a relationship on the rocks for certain.
Right, exactly.
And so he comes home and finds very quickly that things aren't right. His wife isn't there, and some furniture has been overturned, and like a glass thing of a pane of glass.
Yeah, glass coffee table. I think.
A glass coffee table has been shattered. So he calls the police. Initially, not treating it like anything more than like it's anything major. And for those on audio, Hawk Ripjaw has just joined us.
Hey.
So anyway, he comes home, he sees this, calls the police investigate, and they notice immediately the indication of a blood spatter. And so they are treating it like a missing persons case. Further investigation indicates a great deal of missing blood. And so they begin treating it like a
murder case.
All while this is happening, Ben Affleck's character is first he experiences the shock of finding out that that this is really happening to him, and very quickly he's swept up in the media frenzy, which is determined to indict him as the person responsible for his wife's disappearance. Now, the way the film begins, and so this is where we're going to go into spoiler territory, as we discussed. As the film begins, the indication is, it leaves it ambiguous as to whether Ben Affleck actually did it or not. They even indicate some things to make you start to turn against him. For instance, when photographers are taking his picture, he forces a smile right in front of the picture of his missing wife, which does not come off very well.
It's not a good idea.
Plus, a random person who volunteers help. Right.
Does an Instagram selfie with him, and he smiles, and then immediately he's like, "Yeah, can you delete that?"
Exactly,
and she doesn't.
So like Snapchats himself in front of the poster of her dead body.
Hashtag fuck my alibi.
No, they were outside of the headquarters for the volunteers, and some woman's like, "Oh, hi, I'm so sorry about what happened. Hey, do you mind if we take a picture?" And she does, and his natural reaction is to smile, because he's a polite guy for the most part, or at least he's trying to be polite.
But then it dawns on him how bad that would look.
Right, it dawns on him immediately, and he's not prepared for this media frenzy, so, that gets out along with the photo of him in front of the poster of his wife, and it just doesn't look good, and so he's labeled a sociopath and a crazy person, and
there's a constant theme of this one TV pundit in particular.
Who's like the Nancy Grace surrogate, kind of.
Yes, basically it's Nancy Grace. We'll say it like that. She has this constant look of just disdain on her face, and everything that happens, she judges immediately. She's basically decided, guilt, and she's helping America to decide the guilt of him in advance.
I want to note, too, that role is played by Missy Pyle, who is, every time I see her, I think comedy. Mm-hmm. She's usually known for being in roles that are kind of over the top and comedic in some manner, and she's kind of a go-to, in my opinion, for those kind of roles. And this will come up later in my analysis of the movie when we get into it further. But I just wanted that noted that it's Missy Pyle.
Her role is essentially comedic in the film, in that the film is, and I'm going to say this before we go deeper into it, I would say it's been advertised incorrectly. Well, okay, I won't say incorrectly. It's been advertised inaccurately. Incorrectly indicates a possibility of, them, of poor advertising. I think they advertised it in the perfect way to get this film noticed and make money. Because had they advertised this like it is, which is a media satire about the way sensationalism essentially clouds judgment and leads to basically the media trying someone before before the facts of the case are truly disseminated. So anyway, a satire is not something that Hollywood will sell because a good deal of people do not appreciate good satire.
I don't know if this was so much I'm sorry, go ahead.
A solid half of the country does not appreciate satire.
Yeah, that's true.
And the reason why I would call this film a satire is because every nature of it, including the more over-the-top elements that occur towards the end, build up into, I would say, they're levels which are, I would call it surreal, to the point where I was almost reminded of the film Network, where they push things pretty far, and then they push it further and further until you have the main character as not just a crazy newscaster, but a crazy newscaster who is now being deified as this god to people.
Or a prophet.
Yes, yeah, exactly, a prophet. As opposed to what he really is, which is a mentally ill person. So
I didn't think of that. This movie does kind of have some spiritual... not spiritual, but I don't mean spiritual like it's spiritual. I mean it's some spiritual connections to Network. Like it's almost a sister movie in a weird way.
Right.
It kind of does have that.
the media satire element is really pervasive, and it really struck a chord in me, especially at this point, and here's where the spoilers begin, when suddenly in the movie, right at the point where Ben Affleck's character is essentially, condemned, and the element of him being, the murderer is and everyone's judged him.
That's the perception.
Yeah. Right. You hear the voice of
Rosamund Pike.
Of Rosamund Pike, which is his wife in the film, saying basically, I forget exactly what the words are, but it's something like, so I was murdered, something like that. And it cuts to a car, this cheap little subcompact, driving down the highway. And she explains quite viciously how everything that she has done for the last probably 6 months has been painstakingly prepared. In order to basically frame her husband for her murder, even though she's not dead.
Yeah, she's staged her own kidnapping and possible murder. She's done everything in as much detail as possible. She
even has a murder calendar with
She has a murder calendar,
dates, including the date that she's planning to go drown herself and
to finish the whole thing off, because
she wants the coup de grace to be her death.
It should be noted that she's like a writer, I believe, or
yes.
She's done writings in the past, so she's a very creative person. She's very detailed, and this is exactly what a writer who has gone psychotic would probably do in detail. It's really amazing how much forethought was put into this,
and I
how
like
much
you use the word amazing, because
she's Amazing Amy, yeah.
Right, Amazing Amy in this story is a child. Like a series of children's novels that her parents wrote, essentially about her, and the idea basically is that she's kind of been fucked up since childhood because her parents did everything. Yeah, they did everything for the character, and everything they did for that character they did not do for her.
Yeah, and then she even says something to the degree of "it's my life," but they expanded upon it or something. Like they made it a little better or whatever. And so I idealized it and everything. And she kind of is doing that to herself, but to her husband too, with this whole kidnapping thing. And so from that point on, we see two stories. We see the husband dealing with the media crap, and also slowly figuring out that his wife is doing this stuff to him, and also what his wife is up to, and how she's watching the news and paying attention to what's going on, and all that. And it really becomes the ultimate war of the roses from that point on, because from that point on, the husband, Ben Affleck, kind of is like, "You crazy bitch, I know what you're up to," and then she's like, The
difference being, though, there is really no point in time in which Ben Affleck's character has the
upper hand. It really is all dependent on her. He has a moment where he reaches out to her. He winks, like knowing that she's probably watching. He does something that kind of gets her attention, but really, she's always the one in control. It's up to her to change the game.
So the true irony of the film is that, yes, a sociopath was involved, but it's not Ben Affleck. It is his wife.
Now, should we give the thumbs up to let Hawk and Bill Leon back in?
Yes, I think at this point we can go ahead and spoilers are gone. I'll even type that in the chat.
We're good. We got it.
Yeah. All right, cool.
So anyway, William Wallace died. And
I really want to see that. So.
And what else? In Fight Club, it's actually 2 people. And so anyway,
You said Fight Club is actually 2 people.
It's actually 1 person. I fucked that up.
Yeah.
I was watching the director's cut.
Ooh.
Did we talk about Left Behind yet, by the way?
No.
No,
Okay, good.
we're
Come
saving
on.
that.
Come on,
I
man.
appreciate
Yeah.
you waiting for me.
We
Come
were
the
originally
fuck on.
we were originally kind of leading into that, but then I
Okay.
changed it. I was like, hey, Ken, maybe we should make that the main event.
Yeah,
I
appreciate
will summarize Gone Girl by saying fantastic performances from all the actors involved. Tyler Perry, surprisingly, was in a film, involved in a film where he A, didn't ruin it, and B,
Shut up.
My old pal Tyler Perry.
the movie didn't suck. In fact, it was very good.
Right.
And
I heard Double Toasted said he plays like a Johnny Cochran type.
Not quite as charismatic
I
as
wouldn't
Johnny
go with
Cochran.
Johnny Cochran. Well, okay. Johnny Cochran's an easy one to say because he's probably the attorney most well-known, as far as like your shysters who are famous for their work.
This is Chewbacca. Chewbacca is from the planet. Yeah.
But he's not.
Yeah.
He's not quite as outlandish as that. He seems like a real person in this movie. He just happens to take on these outlandish cases.
And the fact is, there is a real market for attorneys who take these high-profile cases, and the reason why is because if an attorney takes a high-profile case in the news, that's free advertising for him, and that's going to get him more work. That's the reason why attorneys oftentimes will sign up, regardless of the guilt or innocence of their client. They don't take that into account. What they take into account is how good is it going to make me taking this case.
That's kind of the big theme of this movie is how the perception in the media going back to that whole network satire thing. Tyler Perry's character, what's his name in this movie? It's no, it's actually a weird name. It's like
Tanner Bolt.
Tanner Bolt. It sounds like an action hero name.
Tanner Bolt.
Tanner Bolt. That's at least his media name, if you will. Right.
Attorneys have to have, if you are a high-profile attorney, you have to have a name that's memorable. In our area, for instance, in the Chicagoland area, one of the more famous until recently, because there were some scandals, was Attorney Peter Francis Geraci. And I say that because this is the way his advertisements would go. Are you a person who has suffered an injury due to blah, 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 blah? Well, you can contact my office.
Attorney Frank Azar, the strong arm.
Is that real?
I think
the real name?
Yeah, I think so. I think what we're getting at is like Gloria Allred. Like that's a weird name, but it's also memorable and it sticks.
It's got panache.
But but it goes back to like his character, Tyler Perry's character, taking on this case simply for the media craze and yeah, man, I'll take on your case, whatever, yeah.
Listen, you're trying to get into the game of law. You don't need to read books. You don't need to hone your craft. You need to be in show business. You need a flashy name. You need a catchy commercial.
You need to put your dick on the table and you know how to fuck.
Get
Do
out
you know
there.
how to fuck? Yeah, but that's this movie. This movie, I didn't think of it. It really is kind of like Network in a weird way. But I would go a little farther in saying this movie is very much a dark comedy. If you look, it's almost like hidden as a dark comedy. Mm-hmm. The audience I was watching it with was laughing throughout the whole thing. There were the casting choices, which I briefly brought up reference before, of Missy Pyle, Tyler Perry. There's someone else I can't think of right. Oh, Neil Patrick Harris. Just odd choices, but also they're known for comedy roles in the past and everything. They're casted here not so much because they're going to bring the funny in their individual roles, but because of their previous history with comedic roles. And I think Fincher knew that, and I think Fincher was like, yeah, I'm making a dark comedy, and I need these players because they have experience with these kind of movies. But the movie itself isn't like overall funny. It's just, I mean, it is, but it's not like that's the overall theme. It's kind of like hidden, And I think Fincher was slyly making a dark comedy here, about sociopaths and media frenzy. And it's pretty bold when you think about it. That's my little analysis.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I get.
Right, and I mean, of course, any of these, and these films that deal with the sensationalist attorney and the way they're dealing with damage control. Your typical Three Stooges term would be the law offices of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
Right. Does anyone remember that movie with John Travolta and Dustin Hoffman that was on the nose about media sensationalism? I think it was called Mad City.
I never heard of it.
I didn't see Mad City.
I watched that all the time on HBO. It came on HBO all the time when it came out, and it was like the cheesiest fucking thing. John Travolta plays a security guard at a museum who loses his job and then holds everyone hostage, and Dustin Hoffman plays a reporter who's trying to sensationalize the story, and then slowly he grows a heart and realizes what he's doing is horrible, more horrible than what John Travolta's doing. And I think John Travolta plays like a white trash security guard. He's got like goofy teeth and everything. We're supposed to identify with him, but he's like completely unrelatable in that sense because he's like a small niche of the population. And it's a pretty on the nose movie. The movie even ends with the media surrounding Dustin Hoffman's character as he's saying, "We killed him! We killed him! Oh my God, we killed him!" And the media's like. I was like, okay,
if you're looking for a movie that soft pedals this issue, if you're looking for a movie that soft pedals media sensationalism to the point of something that only a mentally disturbed individual would appreciate, there's always A Time to Kill.
Oh yeah,
with
okay.
Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson, which ends
Kevin
with
Spacey.
Samuel L. Jackson being found not guilty because he killed some white racist people.
He's not guilty by reason of being an awesome black guy.
Exactly. That's almost exactly what happens in the film. And
Do you guys remember a scene in that movie where Kevin Spacey's doing a press conference before the trial, and he's like, "We're gonna do this case by the books," and then he looks behind the press conference people, and one of his assistants has a list of the jurors, and then Kevin Spacey winks. I was like, dude, that's too on the nose. You can't do that in a movie.
Kevin Spacey is the evil attorney in that.
He's
movie.
the evil Southern attorney, right?
And
Matthew McConaughey's
the good one.
the good idealist attorney.
That's a perfect example of it's an entertaining movie to watch, but Jesus, is it painful if you consider anything. If you think about that movie, and the real, if you try to compare it to what would happen in real life, doctors don't know what causes aneurysms. I'm pretty sure it's thinking about things like that. It'll get wrapped up in your mind, and you won't let it go, and they'll find you dead in a week.
The big compelling nature of the movie, I would say, is Samuel L. Jackson and his plight in the film, because you really do identify with that character. Despite the goofiness going around, you really do kind of feel like if you were a father, you would probably take to the streets just like he does.
Well, I mean, without a doubt, the movie has a revenge fantasy element to it because his family gets wronged by some KKK members, and he fucking murders them and gets away with it. And there's, of course, the famous and awesome and oft-quoted...
Yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Have any of you guys seen the film, I think Mel Gibson produced it, Paparazzi?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, definitely. I had to watch that movie in preparation of writing a screenplay for Cole Hauser.
Who's Cole Hauser?
He's the lead in Paparazzi. He's the lead character, the lead actor. Yeah. Cole Hauser was in town doing K-ville, and my friend had a connection with Cole and wanted to write a screenplay where Cole plays a psychotic football player on the loose. And I was like, okay, I'll help write that, whatever. It sounds weird. And so in preparation for that, I watched Paparazzi. And I was like, oh, he's perfect for this kind of movie.
There's a line, and I've only seen the trailer, but there's a line in Paparazzi, and I forget, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, I will destroy your kids, your family, your friends, and I will enjoy doing it. Because
I bet that was Tom Sizemore.
Probably.
Those are always good lines in movies. I mean, you have, of course, The Untouchables. I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want their homes burned to the ground.
Oh, I love it. I love it when that line is like taken to the nth degree, where it's like his second grade teacher gone, his childhood pet, fucking take him out.
Yeah, they do that pretty often, or at least they did after that movie came out, like on Looney Tunes and shit.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're getting at is go see Gone Girl. It's totally worth it. It's a wonderful movie. It's at times dark comedy, at other times media satire, but it's everything to everyone, and it's made by one of the best filmmakers going today.
I have to mention sort of, and yes, I agree with that, but I have to mention, just because we're talking about it, a sort of a reverse of what we were talking about there with that, the threat, is a deconstruction of that in the opposite direction. Have you seen Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
One of my favorite lines in the entire movie is a conversation between Robin Hood and his blind servant Blinken, where he's talking about his family and how they died, and he said, he finds out his father's dead, and Robin Hood says, "And my mother? She died of pneumonia. While you were away, my brothers, they were killed by the plague. My dog Pongo, run over by a carriage. My goldfish Goldie, eaten by the cat. My cat, choked on the goldfish." Oh, it's good to be home, isn't it? I don't know why I was reminded of that, but
What made me laugh the most out of that was the fact that his name is Blinken.
The fact, I was laughing because I just all of a sudden got an image of Richard Lewis as a prince, or king, or whatever he is.
Prince John.
I have a mole?
Yeah.
That was, of course, a reference to the What Hump. Yeah.
Or my favorite element is Tracy Ullman in Robin Hood Men in Tights as Latrine, the witch.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And the
I always wanted to marry a cop.
The best line in the entire movie. Richard Lewis is talking to her, and and she mentions her name, Latrine. How she changed it. Richard Lewis looks at her and says, "You mean you changed your name to Latrine?" And she looks and says,
Used to be
Shithouse. Good change.
Good change, yeah.
Tracy Ullman is one of those comedic actresses who just freaking nails it in her performances. She reminds me a lot of Cloris Leachman in that when she goes for comedy, she goes full on.
I guess, a good
regardless
example
of what kind of movie she's in.
She would have been a good choice for a female Ghostbuster.
Yeah. well, maybe a ghost. I don't know. Like a monster. She'd do a comedic. She'd do a good Slimer.
That wouldn't be much of a stretch for acting, then.
What are we talking? Tracy Ullman or Cloris Leachman? Or
Cloris Leachman.
Yeah. Well, Cloris Leachman, of course, she would be a great ghost. Absolutely. I mean,
she'd be a good librarian ghost. Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, hell, look at Young Frankenstein. She's Frau Blucher, the character.
What's up with these names in Mel Brooks movies? They just make me laugh,
Oh, yeah,
it means glue.
Frau Blucher, Latrine, Blinken.
Blucher means glue.
Right.
And have you ever noticed in Young Frankenstein, every time Blucher is said, the horses go crazy?
Yeah.
You really need to point that out. I mean,
do we have a problem?
Did you get a phone call? Hello?
I'm sorry.
Is everything okay?
I don't know. The internet seems to be. We seem to be going through a slow internet.
Yeah, you're kind of fading in and out a little bit.
We. Nah, I'm kidding. Well.
All right. I'm gonna try. Okay, I'm dialing down my bandwidth.
I don't know what's going on. Like nothing's weird over.
Nothing's weird for either me or Hawk.
Or me. I'm on this. I think you guys can hear me speaking, right?
So what the fuck is going on? Why did we all of a sudden be like?
Hang on. Let me see if I can contact Ken. Can you hear us?
Can you not hear us?
Yeah. That could be the case.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, actually.
We
I
can
can
hear
hear
you.
you guys talking, but sometimes you guys are speaking in.
Speaking in
what?
what?
Yeah, so here's the problem. When I start talking, you guys start talking, so I'm sure it's like a.
Do you want to sign out and
This is
sign
getting
back?
ridiculous.
Do you want to sign out and sign back in, Ken?
Alrighty.
Yeah, I'll be back in
That's
just
the
a second.
Okay, Ken is going to sign out and sign back in. In the meantime, while he's
All
doing
right, now
that,
that Ken's gone, let's talk about. No, I don't know.
let's talk bad shit about him.
No, that's not what I
Ken.
meant. I
He's
was
such a
gonna say,
goofball.
No, actually, I kind of wanted, as like a brief intermission before we get into Left Behind, I wanted to bring up the news or the rumor that Marvel is working with Sony to negotiate bringing Spider-Man into the cinematic universe.
I heard
Thoughts?
that, yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
I think
I
that'd be a
think
good
it's-
collaboration. So I had a thought that maybe that the two studios could collaborate this and then split the profits based on Spider-Man's exposure in the movies. Obviously, Spider-Man would be a sub-major or minor character, and Sony could still take some of the profit from that film, even though it would be a chiefly Marvel Studios film.
Well, do you think it would be like they would have to completely reboot Spider-Man again for the cinematic universe, or could they find a way to work in what's been done with the Amazing Spider-Man series and continuity-wise bridge it?
they
Well,
could
given that
do
Sony is now working closely, they've got their own team to do something like what Marvel is doing with their universe and what Warner Brothers is doing with their DC universe. I think they would continue with that same thread because they put all this work now into not only starting Spider-Man as his own franchise and his own universe now, but also continuing that with a large slate of films at least through 2018.
Okay, that makes sense. I think the best way to go about it would be to explain that the previous events of the movies took place after the Avengers or somewhere after all this stuff happened, because it would be kind of weird explaining it like, okay, New York had a bunch of lizards walking around or people mutating into lizards at one point, and then you had a Green Goblin and Electro attack, and
Yeah.
like, how do you explain that within the Avengers universe? You know,
I
well,
remember that
okay.
1 week.
Well, they figure
Right.
something. They figure something out. I guess Sony would probably like loan Spider-Man to Disney for like whatever $700 million. They could use him as much as they wanted in this one movie, something like that.
I always thought like they should do that with Wolverine, with 20th Century Fox, and just bring in Wolverine to the mix and explain him by having like some sort of dimensional portal or something stupid like that.
I don't know if you would need to do that, though, because, I mean, yeah, Fox has been doing their thing, but you could... Well, no, I guess you couldn't. Never mind.
Yeah. So Ken, can you hear us?
I can hear you just fine. The issue that I was having, and let me go ahead and just explain it really quick, was that I would start talking, and as soon as I started talking, someone else's voice would cut in. And
I was
it
going to
sounded-
cut you off to be funny, but...
Yeah, and it sounded like it was in slow motion. So, Bill, you would be talking like this with your voice.
that happens.
So that there was a sync problem, basically.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what it was, but
It is kind of weird.
Well,
But
the trick, Ken, is to close all of your porn tabs before the broadcast starts. Those will eat into your bandwidth. If you
I
leave them
opened
open.
about 30 more while I was gone. I mean, I had that interval. I needed to crank it out a couple more.
what was that joke in The Simpsons? What was that joke in The Simpsons where Homer revisits his college that he went to, and he spent time with the nerds in the dorm, and one of the nerds is like, "I'm working on a way to get more porn," and Marge is like, "Why would you need more porn?" And Homer's like, so much porn.
You can't just watch one. You got to switch between them.
Just like
It's
Randy
sexual-
Marsh on South Park, you know, he's like, okay, where's the Japanese fart porn? All right, where's this porn? Where's that porn? You know?
Yeah, you got to mix things up because, you know, you get to a point where you reach the event horizon and it's just, you know, it drags you in and there's no escape. No escape. So
speaking of Marvel news, I heard another thing is that potentially Frank Castle was in Cap 2, The Winter Soldier.
The Punisher.
The Punisher.
Yeah.
I guess the Russo brothers were kind of candidly, piquing people's interest on this. Is that during the Nick Fury car chase, the yellow Penske truck that T-bones one of the pursuing police cars is driven by Frank Castle, because later on in the film, when that guy gets tossed out, gets tossed out the window,
Oh,
hit by a truck. What?
Are you talking about Frank Grillo, the one of the Hydra agents?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's hit by a yellow truck as well, and it's a Penske truck. So it's the same Penske truck they're suggesting, and both times it's driven by Frank Castle. So, I mean, it's just kind of like a rumor, but apparently the Russo brothers were being very candid about kind of just suggesting that and having fun with it.
That's if they decide to do something with it, that's cool. If not, then it's a cool little Easter egg to kind of have in there. I think that's pretty neat. Yeah.
I watched The Winter Soldier again on Monday, and man, that was the first time I'd seen it since I saw it in theaters, and that movie just kicks so much fucking ass.
Oh, agreed. It holds up on multiple viewings.
Like, I still found myself very much thrilled by that highway chase scene and then the gunfight following it.
I have to be honest, this is a year where the two Marvel films released are both my favorite Marvel films.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's a great saying. I'm still trying to decide which one I like more, because Guardians is a more funny, like, it's more of an outrageous comedy kind of thing, versus Cap 2 is like the opposite, so it's hard to judge between the two.
Yeah.
But either way,
have you guys been catching up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No, I never really had much interest in
I
that.
haven't even seen an episode.
It's actually a cool show. They just did a little bit of a storyline with the Absorbing Man, the Hulk villain. I believe he was also a Thor villain too. They did something recently with Blizzard. They did a whole story arc last season with Deathlock. That was pretty cool.
I came up with a theory, by the way, involving Agent Coulson, which is that Agent Coulson is going to die again in Avengers 2. That's my theory. See, here's my thought. This seems like something Joss Whedon would totally do. Is that he turns it into a thing where Agent Coulson dies in every Avengers movie. That's just something that happens.
Oh, and then they just keep bringing him back somehow, like with a robot or something.
Like a comedic thing, and like each time there's like another, like, you'll see him with more and more like robotics or something involving him. Just imagine this scene in Avengers 2. Like, at a pivotal moment in the movie, Coulson takes some fatal shot, and you just see this look on his face, or maybe he says this comment where he's just like, "Really? Like, this is happening again?" Just a moment like that. And I thought about that, and I realized that seems like a Joss Whedon thing.
Like where he gets shot in like the fucking face, and everybody's like, "He died again," and Agent Coulson like turns to the camera and is like.
His death in the first Avengers was a very Krillin kind of thing.
Right.
Krillin is from Dragon Ball Z. For those who don't know, Goku's best friend is Krillin. Krillin was killed by Frieza, and that sent Goku over the edge to become Super Saiyan, a.k.a. Coulson's death was just motivation for them to team up and put their differences aside.
Right, because Coulson was like the ultimate fanboy. He's this big believer in superheroes and everything, and they wanted to rally together almost in honor of that. But in the season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that was like one of the main arcs, was Coulson figuring out how he came back to life and wanting to know more about that. And he eventually figures it out, but he's still kind of dealing with the implications of that. So I don't even know if Coulson's even going to be in Avengers 2, to be honest with you.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think if they played that right, they could turn it into because already my understanding is a running joke with Marvel involving Avengers is those helicarriers always get fucking blown up, just like.
Remember what happened in Captain America 2. The revelation of Hydra destroyed S.H.I.E.L.D., or most of S.H.I.E.L.D. anyways. So now S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of, in hiding, trying to rebuild itself and everything.
Right.
but they don't have helicarriers anymore. The helicarriers are probably property of the government now.
So what I'm saying is they can't do that anymore. So they have to have some sort of recurring theme. Well, okay, they don't have to, but they should. And I think if Coulson is killed again and that becomes a thing, if they play it right, it could make for a hilarious moment in the film.
It could.
It could be a extended joke where maybe they kill him in a more gruesome way each time, but each time he keeps maybe he was shot pretty much in like the stomach.
No, he was stabbed in the chest.
Right.
From behind.
You're right.
Sorry.
Well, he was stabbed from behind, but it came through his chest. Yeah.
So next time maybe he'll get shot in the chest and there'll be like a huge hole you can even see through. And then he'll come back. Maybe in just the end credits of the movie, he'll just be there, and it's like,
Not again.
I just imagine Nick Fury having this look of like,
fuck.
and then Coulson's like, I don't know.
Well, you guys know what the deal really was, right?
What do you mean? Oh, how he came back?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen season 1 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Basically, Fury used. They had some S.H.I.E.L.D. project involving an alien species they found, and they used the blood of that species and injected it into Coulson, and that regenerated his body and brought him back to life. And they messed with his mind to change his memories so that he didn't remember what happened, but slowly he figures it out.
The original idea for that was just that Coulson's death was a ploy by Fury to get the Avengers to finally work together.
Oh, no, it was a ploy. He wasn't fully dead. I mean, he did die for a little bit of time, but Fury was working on bringing him back because he knew there was a way to do that.
He's not quite dead.
He's getting better. That's essentially what happened, and
he should never be. You should never die in vain. Well, I'm actually okay. You should never be mortally wounded in vain.
The original thing was the entire death was a total fabrication, and then Coulson, still alive, went into hiding.
He did go into hiding, but as a higher-ranking agent, working on specific cases. You really should check out the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's out on DVD.
Well, if it shows up on Netflix one day, I'll watch it.
Yeah, if it comes.
Yeah, it's a really good show.
All right.
So Left Behind.
Dun, dun, dun.
We've avoided
after an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we started this like at 6:30, I think, so it's almost an hour.
Yeah, we've avoided this hot potato for long enough, and so it's time to go balls deep.
I think first, before we actually get into the movie itself, we should describe the circumstances of each of our individual screenings, how the audience was. Now, how has Bill Leon? Did you see the movie?
No.
Okay, so we're.
I don't have money to spend on a movie, and if I did, I would assume I'm glad it's not this one.
Yeah, but I would have hoped you would have seen
it.
it. I would have hoped you would have seen it just because we all saw the trilogy, and it's kind of.
I just do not blame anyone for not seeing this one because.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but Hawk.
I'm excited to hear about it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, Hawk, explain your theater experience with Left Behind.
Surprisingly uneventful, although everybody kept laughing at the little man, the dwarf. I don't know, dwarf, midget. I'm gonna go with dwarf.
He's a.
There's a character on the plane.
Yeah, I know him. I don't know his name, but I know he's a wrestler. He's in the midget wrestling circuit.
Oh,
of
okay.
course he is.
It's not Hornswoggle.
No, it's not Hornswoggle.
Is his name.
It's Martin Kleba, yeah. At first I thought it was Vern Troyer, which would be really weird because Vern Troyer got raped by monkeys in Postal a few years ago. So I was like, okay, that's a weird career move.
Yeah, Martin Kleba, you would recognize Martin Kleba because he was Mini-Me in Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Oh, okay.
But not. I'm sorry, he was not Mini-Me. I'm sorry, he was another small person. I apologize. Vern Troyer was Mini-Me.
Right, Vern Troyer was also in the Uwe Boll film Postal, in which he was locked in a room and raped by about 100 monkeys.
Where was
I just thought that was originally very strange because he's gone from that to being in a religious movie. But other than that, like my audience laughed at pretty much everything that guy said or did.
My
Oh yeah,
audience found this movie
Whose
freaking
God should we
hilarious.
pray to?
Yours or mine? And everybody's like, and you know, my audience wasn't so bad. The theater was about a third full, and it was a very small theater, so there wasn't a lot of people there.
My audience was
and,
a sold-out audience, and
Oh,
it
Jesus.
was a church group, and they laughed at
Oh.
all the moments that were supposed to be funny and none of the moments that I found hilarious.
I had to. There were a few parts that I found really funny that nobody else did, but nobody got mad at me, so that was okay.
My audience was a little similar to Ken's. It wasn't completely full. It was kind of like halfway full, and it was mostly older people, like not elderly, just middle aged, and taking their wives out to go see a movie, and nobody cried or anything like that. It wasn't like sappy, but I could tell that if I laughed too hard, someone might look over and be like, "Shut the fuck up! We're trying to watch this movie."
See, this is how I felt when I watched Noah, guys. I don't want to insult Noah because I don't think it's bad, but like there was a lot in Noah that made me laugh and like want to laugh out loud.
And the funny thing about Noah is, while it's sort of based on the Bible, it's not technically executed that way. It's
not what I would call a preachy religious film.
Right, and
Right.
I agree with you guys, but that audience that I saw it with, I could tell they were there for the Bible stuff.
Because of that, right? Yeah.
It was a lot of old people, and I don't think old people are going to Darren Aronofsky flicks.
No.
No. So Left Behind, the Nicolas Cage, Vic Armstrong movie. Expectations going into it. We saw the original trilogy with Kirk Cameron. We went through the commentary. We had a blast watching it. I guess if you could call it. I had fun watching those movies with everyone.
Yeah,
But
I had fun watching it, the three movies until I reached hangover mode where I was just like done.
oh god, just end.
That third one is, I wouldn't even recommend people watch that video just because it's really just, I think all of us at that point were just.
We were trying.
I was doing okay.
We were trying. We were doing our best, and that actually was the most entertaining one for me because it was Louis Gossett Jr. Right? Yeah.
Well, this movie is. Here's the thing: if you've seen the first Left Behind movie, take the first 20 minutes of that film and
just stretch it.
And
stretch it 2 hours
to almost 2 entire hours in length. And also throw out those subplots that were at least somewhat intriguing, like reports from people elsewhere in the world, and just focus on Rayford Steele, that would be Nicolas Cage's character in the movie, the airline pilot, and his daughter, as they experienced it, and as they experienced the rapture. Well, as the rapture as a third party. Here's the thing with the movie. The first half of the movie, the first, I'll say third of the movie, is painstakingly designed to make you, and here's, regardless of what you feel religiously, I don't think you'll argue the religious characters in this film prior to being raptured away are kind of annoying and really don't make you feel very religious. In fact, what they make you feel is at this point, good riddance. I mean, the world's a better place without those bastards.
I should.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I should note the woman that accosts the reporter in the airport and then gets yelled at by the daughter of Nicolas Cage. I actually interviewed her for a podcast. I think it was last year for the New Orleans Film Festival. And I was surprised to see her in this movie. I was like, "Oh my God, that's her!" I was like,
so is she
Go ahead.
Is she like a hard-ass atheist in real life or something?
I have no idea. She takes herself a little too seriously, though, as an actress.
Okay.
She was in a short film called Homelesside about a woman who murders homeless people.
Nice.
And,
Wait. Time out. We need to talk about this title for a second. Homeless Side?
Yes, Homeless Side. It was an official selection at the New Orleans Film Festival for some reason. It's not a good movie. It's really horrible. And I had to interview her based on that short. And I felt really bad. I was like, how am I going to ask this woman questions politely about this short film that I find morally offensive and horrible, from a filmmaking standpoint. And I figured out a way, but she took herself a little too seriously. She was like, yeah, I think our film really brings attention to the homeless issue. I was like, no, it doesn't. But
Doesn't
okay,
really. I can't
whatever.
see how it would, but
No, it doesn't. But she's like, yeah. But I noticed her in this movie, and I was like, that's so cool that she has a bit part playing this religious nut who's like, the end times are coming, Mr. Reporter guy that everyone knows and is excited.
Chad Michael Murray.
Chad Michael Murray.
Let's call him Chad. That's the douchiest name in the fucking world. Chad Michael Murray.
By the way, in the last third of the movie, do you even remember him getting a line in that last part of the movie?
He was mostly
I
like
don't really give a shit. But
his lines were basically, "There's fire on the wing.
we're on fire.
Now the fire's gone."
He always comes in. We're on fire. Is like the most nonchalant.
See, I thought he was going to be brought in as like the new co-pilot. Like they were going to be like, look, I need someone to help me in the cockpit. Does someone in the back know anything about planes? And he, being a reporter, maybe he was in a situation where he had to do something.
That's the plot of Airplane, Bill.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I mean. Like they had to do something.
He didn't need one. He didn't need a co-pilot because Jesus was his co-pilot.
Oh, okay.
Jesus was not his co-pilot because
that was the point.
He was like, fuck y'all. I'm taking these people home.
I'm taking the good
Surely
people home.
the Lord is with you.
You can deal with all of this shit down on Earth.
Well, okay, I think we should get back to the first third of the movie, which is a really surreal TV pilot-esque feel to it. It feels like...
By the way, the single most baffling music film score I think I've ever heard.
It's like the music from Birdemic.
The music score was insane. Like I lost it when they started like playing the saxophone.
Yeah.
It never fits the mood of the scene. It's like sometimes it sounds like circus music. Sometimes it sounds like
elevator music at times.
Oh, yeah, and the plane collisions like electric guitar like dun 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 dun. And it's like every other scene is a totally different like conceptually a whole different musical score.
I do want to put this out on Front Street. The composer of the score for this film, Jack Lenz, apparently composed the music for The Passion of the Christ.
Well, wasn't The Passion of the Christ just 2 hours of some lady wailing in Latin?
I don't remember the music for it, but what I'm saying is he's actually composed music for
a well-known film, yeah.
Right, and let's see, he's also done other films he's done. Oh, what the fuck?
Roadhouse?
He composed music for a TV series called Little Mosque on the Prairie. What the?
Mosque, like
Mosque.
the Muslim church?
So what you're saying is that there's a musical director at a local church, and every time a religious film is made, they're like, hey, we need you, and we know that you work for free because you love Jesus.
He also
and your
composed
family.
music for a TV series called The Sex Files.
Oh, so he's really good. That's where the saxophone comes in.
And a series called Total Recall 2070? Was this a thing? Did they make a Total Recall TV series?
I doubt that very much.
This is his IMDb profile. He composed music for Due South, for Goosebumps. Let's see, what else?
Like all of Goosebumps? Like, did he write that theme
For
song?
23 episodes of Goosebumps, apparently.
Did he write that?
No, I don't think so. I think just for those episodes.
Wow, that's boring.
Yeah, Total Recall 2070 is based on the Philip K. Dick thing. Just FYI.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just saw that, and I was like, that was a thing that existed, apparently.
I'm looking at it on IMDb. The box art for Total Recall 2070 has a critic quote at the top that says, "Total action."
Nice.
Okay. Total Recall 2070. Wikipedia says it was a Canadian TV series that lasted 22 episodes. And
That's too long.
let me read this description. It takes place in a crowded industrial cosmopolitan setting. The government mostly runs. Yeah. Okay. So blah blah blah. The main character's name in the show was David Hume, as in like the philosopher David Hume.
Probably.
Okay, that's needless. But it's
And it is also a sequel to the miniseries V. Who cares?
anyway. So that
What we're getting at is though the music is so weird, and the opening third of the movie is so oddly happy. Is the way I put it. Like everyone's like, Earth is such a wonderful place to live. Some of us are atheists and don't believe in God. Some of us do believe in God. It's chipper, flowers, and let me go bring my brother to the mall so we can watch black guys do breakdancing.
What?
That breakdancing was so stupid.
Yeah,
The clapping was not in sync with the music. That bugged the shit out of me.
not at all. But
What was that?
it was probably breakdancing for God, like some team that does stuff like that, you know.
Like I don't even know.
You know, like
But no, that was the part
weightlifters.
that bugged me. Is that like the crowd watching the breakdance was clapping and the music playing was totally off. It was like
That's exactly how it was. But it has this Blue Velvet opening vibe to it. Like if you guys remember Blue Velvet, it starts off where it's like a suburban white neighborhood and everyone's like, you know, like it's totally uncomfortable. And
like this
that's
creepy
exactly,
Leave It to Beaver like thing.
right, and even I think Nicolas Cage kind of knew that a little bit because in the opening when we're introduced to him in the airport, he's like, "Hi, honey, holy Jesus, it's you," you know, or "Gosh darn it," or he says something kind of, you know, like,
"Gee Willikers, give me a hug."
He says something like that, and he's kind of
cheese
playing.
and rice.
Right, he kind of plays it through his face. He's like, "Hi, honey, what's going on?" You know?
And then and then Kyle MacLachlan found a severed ear and spent the entire rest of the film trying to find out where it came from.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was. I agree with you, Bill. Like the first half hour, while also insufferably boring, was very creepy in how cheery it was.
And
oh
a big,
man, that
big
kid
part of it
too.
was the music. Oh, the kid, yeah.
Fuck that kid. It's so annoying.
The little brother. The little
Yeah,
brother.
when
My
that
little
kid-
brother, I hated that guy.
Did you remember that line where like he gets the baseball glove and his line is one of the most awkwardly written pieces of screenwriting I've ever heard. It's like, "Oh my god," or no, it's like, "Oh my gosh, it is the baseball glove which I have asked for." It was
Yeah. It's baseball glove in for. I hope I can play this before I get raptured.
yeah.
If that happens.
Like typically in screenwriting, you don't have to write what the person is thinking in their head. You can kind of like creatively use words in combination with one another to come up with a sentence that is not as obvious.
Like, wow, thanks, I love you.
Right, you know, something like, you know,
Effective.
we get it, but he's also a human being who can come up with his own thoughts. You know,
Let's be fair though. This is, that's not the only fault that the dialogue commits.
Oh no.
Not by a long shot.
the dialogue in
I
this
was
movie, yeah.
I was trying to. I wish I'd written notes for this movie while I was watching it, but there's people around me, so I didn't want to be too distracting and get thrown out. But I wish I'd written down
I was too
some
busy
of the.
intentionally laughing loudly at the moments that I wasn't supposed to, just to see the looks on people's faces. They were not pleased with me. I made it clear what my position was on the movie very obviously. Like there was a moment like where they were talking about where Nicolas Cage first makes his connection to God, and I said, my response was literally, I said, "Oh Jesus Christ."
That was I tried to like keep mine under control and these people, so most of these folks, if not all of them besides me, were here for a reason. I was like, okay, I'll let them enjoy their movie. But yes, I had trouble holding it back during the part where his revelation, for those who don't know, his revelation of what's going on, he realizes the rapture when he looks at his raptured co-pilot's wristwatch and it says John 3:16 on it, and that's when he knows, like, oh my God, this is the thing that my crazy wife has been talking about.
Like, that's the only connection, really. And
yeah.
Was
anybody else? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Was anybody else really bothered by the editing? Like, it was like a TV show finale on crack. It was like, I know what's happening, and then it cuts to the next scene. And at the end of the scene, they're like, so why didn't you grab your... Well, and then it cuts to the next scene, like back in the plane. It's like every time they're about to reveal something big, it cuts away. Which it wasn't like I didn't know it was going to happen, but the fact that they kept yanking it away was incredibly frustrating.
It was like soap opera editing, like okay, the character says this, and then what's he about to say next? And then it cuts to something completely different. Then it cuts to something, then an establishing shot. Then this. Then that. It very much felt like TV soap opera editing.
So the Muslim character on the airplane is reaching into his bag.
Yeah.
Dramatically, and it's like, what's in the bag? What's in the bag? Jump cut to a friggin' gunshot on the streets, and like glass flying all over the place, a dead body flopping on the ground, and Nicolas Cage's daughter just in shock. And this scene, this redneck dude with a shotgun's like, you can go on with it.
The editorial implication being that the Muslim is possibly armed with a bomb or a gun or a box cutter or some kind of a weapon.
And then because he's a Muslim. Right back to the airplane, and the Muslim's holding a toothbrush. Like an electric toothbrush. It's like,
and that's the joke. And that's the joke is that you're the racist, not me.
Did people laugh at that? What was the audience reaction? To
my audience laughed at that.
Yes, my audience laughed at it, and I was just in awe of the
stupidness of it.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to find it funny.
At the same time, I was kind of impressed with the progressiveness of the Muslim character. Because he actually was one of the sanest people on the plane. He was like, everybody, I think we should just take a moment and pray to God. And, that's not the craziest thing to say in the middle of a crisis. And the midget guy's like, which God, huh? Oh, yours? He's like, no, just the God. Why do you have to make this into some kind of competition, an asshole?
He also didn't get raptured, though.
He didn't get raptured. But still,
he's not that progressive.
He's not that progressive.
He's still the Muslim terrorist. He didn't get raptured.
He's a progressive.
I'm gonna pray to Guy Fieri.
He's a progressive character, but they have to hammer the point home that he is in fact going to hell and burning for all eternity.
Well, we don't know that he's going to hell
unless he accepts Jesus Christ as his personal Lord.
Or if he fights, he could fight alongside Jesus against Satan and go to heaven that way. Right?
Not unless he accepts Jesus Christ as a personal Lord.
I don't know how this
He's the
last
works. Person left. He's the last person left during the tribulation, and Jesus is like, "You got my back." He's like, "Yeah." He pulls out his flaming sword, and they go to heaven together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, he was one of the last people off the plane when the plane, and we'll get into how the plane lands, but he pushes the midget guy off because he and the midget had a tete-a-tete throughout the entire film.
He didn't push him, he drop-kicked him off. Because the midget is a little person, and he gets to get thrown around. Because
he takes place on the plane. This is more on the plane than the first movie is, right?
Oh yeah,
it
definitely.
Is so much more on the plane than the first movie.
Okay, Ken might be the only one that knows what I'm talking about, but how similar is this to the Langoliers as opposed to the first Left Behind?
You know what? This is actually incredibly... I mean, with the exception of the Langoliers had that extended scene, the extended thing taking place in the other airport, if the entire Langoliers film took place in the airplane, this would be the fucking Langoliers. Minus the shitty CGI, whatever those things are.
Yeah, hairballs or whatever.
Hairballs.
So I think now we should get into our disappointment over Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I kind of saw this coming, and that's
me too. Disappointingly,
I think we all did.
Half expected.
I think you actually have to get Nicolas Cage excited for him to do something anymore.
Right.
This wasn't season
2. Ghost Rider 2 was almost there. We had that one scene, the scraping at the door.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Even in Ghost Rider 2, he wasn't at the top of his game. You know?
This is a point of contention for Hawk and I, is that I gave the movie for Movie Boozer, I think, a 6-pack, and I still stand behind that, but in hindsight, it was a better movie than that, but not by much, in my opinion.
I would hazard to say that while more professionally made, arguably, I would argue the Kirk Cameron movie was better.
Overall, like, by being interesting.
Right.
The Kirk Cameron movie was a little. I thought the Kirk Cameron was a little bit easier to laugh at.
Another important,
but also easier to watch. It actually, things happen in the movie other than spending 90 minutes on an airplane with people repeating dialogue incessantly.
And with the funny thing is, you can make that work. You can make being on an airplane for like 90 minutes or so work. You just have to be creative.
You have to be Liam Neeson, and your movie has to be nonstop.
You have to be forward thinking and make the scenes move on. You can't just keep going back to the same old shit. You know.
You have to be
part of the difference
President of the United
is that,
States, and you have to be on Air Force One. That's what you have.
Get off my plane.
Part of the difference between the two is that Kirk Cameron believes all of this with every fiber of his being, and nobody in the 2014 version gives a fuck. They are there for a paycheck.
Yes, very much so, and that's Nick Cage's performance. I would say is not bad in the movie. It's just also not like there's nothing.
Considering who Nicolas Cage is, it doesn't live up to his reputation, is what we're saying. Yeah. Technically, it's a good performance. Technically, within the context of the film, it's okay. But it's Nicolas Cage. We don't want to see okay. We don't want to see him on autopilot. We want to see him.
You don't want to see Cage.
Right, exactly. I was expecting what I wanted to see. This is what I wanted Nicolas Cage to do. I wanted Nicolas Cage to have a scene where he gives a monologue about religion, and he just goes off like, "Jesus, why did you take my wife?" You know, and just goes off and starts yelling at nothing. Just,
Jesus, take me!
Right.
Take me!
I wanted that. Instead, he just kind of goes. He does like a bit where he kind of cough cries.
You wanted to, yeah.
It was bad. That was a bad cry.
It was a bad cry. He just kind of holds.
Later on, when he's talking to his daughter, it's a little more convincing, but.
It got a little better, yeah.
There was no moment like in Face Off when Castor Troy realizes his face is missing, and you have that wonderful where his face is missing. You hear it's like
it reaches that pitch, and then it cracks.
Yeah, it's like a shriek from hell is what it is. Yeah, that is Nicolas Cage acting. Nicolas Cage in autopilot. Ironically, is what we got in this movie.
And that's just, you know, yeah.
Yeah, that's really disappointing to hear.
It is, and that's the whole selling point of the film. They put Nicolas Cage front and center on the poster with the but the catch was, and this was the most telling part of what to expect from this movie. His face on the poster was. And explosions behind him. It's like he was on Thorazine or something, you know? Right, he was like that.
The Rapture? What's going on, man?
Was Nikolai Carpathia in this?
No,
he's not.
No. See that's another strength I got to give to the first Left Behind movie is like Nikolai Carpathia was whoever that actor was, he just played that slimy little shit. And
well, there's nothing more fun than playing an evil bastard, and that's why in my opinion, the best of the Omen movies is the Omen 3, where Sam Neill plays the adult Damien.
Running for president.
Right, because literally all it is him just hamming it the fuck up. Mm-hmm. And it's great, because Sam Neill is a great actor.
In fact, Nicolas Cage, while he's not a young person anymore, he should have played an older Nicolas Carpathia. Wouldn't that have been crazy?
Yeah.
Boom!
She would have been. And that's kind of like why I hope this movie does well enough that they make a sequel, because I really want to see who they're going to cast as the Antichrist and how insane his performance is going to be.
Hopefully. I mean,
They
that's-
need. What if it was?
Phoenix.
No, fuck that.
Joaquin
Gary
Phoenix
Busey.
will not agree to be in this movie.
no, he has too much integrity.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you know this, but Joaquin Phoenix grew up in kind of a like hippie pseudo-Christian religious commune, and it kind of fucked with his head a bit. That's why he's a little bit crazy, go nuts.
Yeah, but they can't afford him.
Right, they can't afford him, and he would probably never do it. The only reason I would see Joaquin Phoenix doing it is if he decided that the only way he can truly like get back his childhood that was lost to the hippie commune would be by doing the most offensive film possible against Christianity.
And that would be Left Behind 2 Tribulation Force.
I have two people they could cast that they could afford.
Okay.
Okay.
Gary Busey.
Depending on how this movie does, they might have to go with Jake Busey, but I'm listening.
Jake Busey makes more sense because he's a little, not quite as young as you would expect for Nikolai Carpathia, but he's a little younger, so.
And he's still got the teeth.
What about James Baldwin?
Oh, boy.
Which Baldwin is that?
The one that's not very popular and that they could afford.
Okay.
Who's the other one, Bill?
Oh, the other one is Crispin Glover.
Oh my God, that would be perfect.
See, Crispin Glover would totally do that, and it would...
Because it would fund his personal projects, yeah.
Yes.
If the paycheck is enough to help him fund whatever his next...
What is it trilogy thing, yeah.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's not James Baldwin. James Baldwin is a black author.
Adam Baldwin?
Stephen Baldwin.
Stephen Baldwin. He was in The Usual Suspects.
Yeah, he was in The Usual Suspects, and that was in 1995.
Kevin Pollak on his podcast says the best about that. He says, the great thing about Usual Suspects is that it made Stephen Baldwin look good.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think the same year Biodome came out, so...
Yeah, and I would argue that did the same thing as The Usual Suspects for Stephen Baldwin. It made him look good.
I mean, look at this guy.
What's
He'd be a totally great Antichrist, and he'd be like, that's not a very good picture.
Where did you find that picture?
This is what picture.
Actually, here's an idea.
He looks like Steven Seagal.
In all honesty, though, I'm not even sure they could afford a Crispin Glover. I think they might have to go with something like Donnie Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Donnie Wahlberg would be an interesting Antichrist.
And he
Oh, go ahead, Ken.
Here's the thing: Donnie Wahlberg might go through with something like that because
they could get that.
The more I hear about the Wahlbergs, the more just I realize how completely just batshit crazy they are.
Despite our casting choices, they're going to cast someone from a soap opera.
Well, I was going to say, they could get that wormy, skinny guy from the first Purge movie.
They get the Mexican guy that played Alec Baldwin's twin in 30 Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Make it Danny Trejo.
Oh,
do you remember that?
I can do that. The Mexican twin, wasn't that Alec Baldwin though?
It was. So there was like a running joke in this episode of 30 Rock where there's this Mexican soap opera.
Oh yeah.
God, yeah,
This actor, he plays the what was it?
Generalissimo.
Generalissimo, and he has a mustache. But it's Alec Baldwin. Everybody keeps commenting on how he looks like him.
Oh right, yeah.
Generalissimo.
That's who they'll get. They'll get the guy who plays Kenneth on 30 Rock.
Oh, he's got that Wreck-It Ralph fuck you money now.
That's true. Okay.
So he'll do this for free.
He doesn't need the money. Sure, whatever.
If it was Kenneth from 30 Rock, he would do it for free. But I don't know about the actor.
the character would do it.
So in the credits of like Nikolai Carpathia, Kenneth.
Kenneth Ellen. That's his last name.
Kenneth Ellen, yeah.
That's his middle name.
Parcell is his last name.
Kenneth Ellen Parcell.
Yeah. So
okay,
one thing that I also... What?
I was gonna say, let me throw an idea out. Like, if you're looking for a truly devious character, pick someone who doesn't typically play a villain, but has all the capabilities of doing so. Like, is a talented enough actor that they could do it, because oftentimes that makes them look 20 times more evil. And
That's
I'm
true.
thinking someone who could muster up that kind of weird, kind of creepy, disturbing, like, evil. I don't know why it's jumping out of my head, but Bob Balaban.
I don't know who that is.
I know who that is.
I know who that is, but uh,
That's weird.
they
But I
could-
mean,
they could-
It's
could
just
work,
jumping in my
yeah.
head. It's such he's such an unassuming, non-threatening looking person, and the roles he plays are usually unassuming, non-threatening characters. Imagine how completely friggin' evil he would be if he got to play a villain. And
But-
Yeah, he'd be good.
but you
I
see,
didn't know that's who that was, though. His name sounds like his last name is a sound, but
yeah,
we're doing a much better job at casting for Left Behind 2 than the people who are going to make Left Behind 2.
oh yeah, absolutely.
And we should actually be in their mindset. If it gets made, we should actually be thinking from their mindset. Okay, who can we afford? And
let's do it.
that's going to be the guy who currently is the lead on Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
Like that's or some shit like that, you know, or the knockoff of Days of Our Lives, you know.
What was like a show that was canceled
unfortunately.
recently? What about that NBC show Do No Harm? That guy's looking for work.
Well, Christian Slater will probably show up in it. Just
Oh yeah,
because
he'll be
that
at
would-
the audition.
He'll be in it, definitely.
he could do Nikolai Carpathia, actually.
He won't, but I mean, like, I think he'll play like some other character. But,
Steven Pasquale. He was
I
in
don't
Do
know.
No Harm. You guys know about that show, right?
What happened?
Of it?
Exactly. Do No Harm was an NBC show about a doctor who was like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character. It lasted like 2 episodes, and NBC was like, well, nobody likes this, let's cancel it. It was really shitty. That guy, the guy playing the doctor, Steven Pasquale, he'd do it.
Well, I think the person they're going to cast is either going to be Latin American or African American, because they want to capitalize on the fact that whites are now the minority, and are going to continue to be the further into the minority as the years go on, and they want to capitalize on the fact that people think Obama is the Antichrist. So they're going to pick someone who's of a different nationality, or not nationality, someone who's of a different skin color, and that's going to be like their Antichrist, you know.
they're gonna get Jordan Peele.
What if they wait till 2017 and cast Obama?
Mike Tyson.
Well, he. No.
Oh man, I know he's sick right now, but fucking Tim Curry would be perfect.
Tim Curry's sick right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got
He
some
had a
illness,
stroke
right?
a couple years ago, and
Yeah.
that's an ongoing issue for him.
Yeah,
What is it?
a stroke.
He already
Oh.
played the devil, though. What's the movie he played the devil in, where he had all that red latex shit on him, the big horns, and you know what I'm talking about?
He was in Legend. He was
Legend.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And
So did anybody else laugh really hard at the scene in Left Behind when he looks at the picture of his family, and it's got like the whole family, and then Nicolas Cage is like standing behind them, just airbrushed as fuck?
It was
Yeah.
totally photoshopped like crazy.
Yeah, that was a really
That
shitty-
made me laugh. That made me
I
laugh.
laughed too.
I wish I could
Wow.
find online a picture of that. That was a terrible Photoshop.
I laughed hard at so many different moments in this movie unintentionally. You know, like that weren't meant to be laughed at. There were just so many of them.
Right.
So
Well,
that
one-
made it kind of enjoyable to watch a little bit.
What one critic was like, Nicolas Cage has definitely never met Leah Thompson.
Yes, I agree with that. Nicolas Cage just showed up on set for 2 days and did this role.
He's
That
like
was it.
hungover, and he's like, all right, let's just do this. How many
I
Okay,
forgot she
so-
was in this.
so-
Holy fuck. Where are
When
you?
he wears his sunglasses inside, I hate people that do that.
Yeah.
Do
Guys,
you?
aviators on inside the airport.
Says the person wearing sunglasses
Yeah.
at this exact moment.
Yeah, but he's doing it for different reasons.
I
Yeah.
know, I'm just being...
What about
Sorry.
what about the tickets to U2?
Oh God, that was actually a big plot point, wasn't it?
Yeah, the U2
The
tickets.
fact that he was sneaking off with some other woman to get away from his family. Like, I scored the tickets, babe. And then his daughter wrote on the back of it.
Here's
So
what I
Left
didn't
Behind on IMDb has plummeted from a 6.6 to a 3.8.
understand.
The new one?
Rating wise, I'm sorry, the new one, yes. It had a 6.6, 6.7 the first couple days it came out.
I have to address the U2 thing really quick.
Okay.
U2,
Do you think they got raptured?
Well, no, here's the thing. Nicolas
No.
Cage and his girlfriend were going to a U2 concert when they got to England, okay?
Okay.
But also, Nicolas Cage's daughter was going to a U2 concert also.
I think that confused me too, but I think what happened is that that was really weird. I think what happened is that the daughter got them for her dad, and then she just gave them to the dad, and the dad was like, "Well, I'm gonna give this to this girl I'm fucking, and we're gonna go see U2 and then do it
But
later."
is U2? I mean, is there two? Literally, did they choose tour dates where, like, literally the day after one concert, they're gonna fly across the Atlantic Ocean to another?
Oh shit! I see what you're saying. That's a good point.
Ken, the answer is Jesus.
Yes, U2 has tapped into the power. They did get raptured. I'm believe that in my heart, and they knew that with the power of Jesus and goodwill that they would be able to fly across the pond to London.
I can actually
concert.
totally imagine Bono doing that. Like, just go, just flying across the
Thank you, everybody. We're going to London.
Why wasn't it the goddamn Newsboys?
Oh Jesus!
They couldn't afford the
yeah,
Newsboys.
You have to
couldn't
mention
afford
them. Bill,
That was a reference. Yeah, he got it. That was a reference to God's Not Dead.
God's Not Dead. A movie would spend their entire budget on the Newsboys.
I forgot that the Newsboys were a thing for
And Kevin
just
Sorbo's
a
paycheck.
good
Kevin Sorbo did it for free. He's religious now.
Yeah, really.
The money did not go to the shot of Kevin Sorbo getting hit by a car, because that was terrible.
Oh yes. So
I guess those who hadn't seen God's Not Dead wouldn't get that. Later in the movie, after Sorbo, right before he gets converted, he gets hit by a car, and he like flips over the car, and there's this really awful slow motion, like whoa, and then he dies.
it was almost as bad as the Meet Joe Black car crash.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not nearly as bad as the plane collision in Left Behind.
Right. And it
Oh
was,
yeah,
that one
where
was-
they clipped. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so hold on. I don't believe that what happened in that scene is actually physically possible, because so the planes were flying, right, and then the Nicolas Cage plane hits the tail of the other plane. They go like this, and somehow the back of the wing of Nicolas Cage's plane is ripped open.
Mhm.
How was the front of the wing not ripped if they collided? If the front of the wing collided with the tail fin of the other one, do you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, we get what you're saying. It's kind of like the magic bullet theory or something. It's like it just doesn't make sense.
It was a very distracting for me that the back of the wing was shorn off and was trailing down.
I think if that was the biggest distraction for you in Left Behind, that says something about this movie. I think.
Well, what else was distracting?
How about
What
the
are you
fact
getting
that the airplane, like when the airplane crash landed, it came literally like within inches of a truck that was marked flammable.
Right.
And it stopped like all of a sudden. It's like skidding. Like right
Ping!
there.
It didn't even hit it. I thought that was going to be a joke, like ping, like you just catch it. Instead, it just stops before it. And I was like, oh, there's no.
That would have been better if it just like bumped it. But then I would have expected something out of Finding Nemo, where the little you remember that like the little torpedo just it is like touches a little mine, dink,
Bing.
and then everything just fucking blows up.
And Nick Cage's daughter in the movie was kind of a magnet for violence. I mean, first the
She was
car
hot, though.
almost hits her, and then she's walking in the parking lot, and an airplane falls out of the sky and hits her frickin' car.
Yeah.
And then a school bus falls off a bridge near her, and then the guy with a shotgun blows
Yeah.
a guy out of a jewelry store in front of her, and so on and so forth, all in the span of like walking around town for a couple minutes.
And she's the only one in the entire city of New York who thinks about airplanes falling from the sky and thinks to, let's try to redirect a plane or two. And
Yeah.
of course, it happens to be her father's plane because, plot. She also happens to have a car, to have found a stretch of road clear enough for an airplane to land, and is able to get the fire bright enough. Hold on, what the fuck was with the scene where she's flashing her brights and says, "Can you see that?"
Well, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Like, hey, can you see my brights? But it's like the plane is all the way. The plane's all the way up here and can see all the lights in not just the town but the entire region of that particular part of the country. And you expect them to see the brights of the car? Logic doesn't come in.
Yeah,
I like how it also took it took a grand total of like -5 seconds for everybody who was not raptured to start looting the shit out of everything.
Yeah.
Or how about the moment of rapture? That in
She's like holding her brother, and then he just deflates in her arms.
Boom!
And she's
Right,
like,
in the
"Where did he
original-
go? Maybe he's at the house." I was like, "No, maybe he's fucking disappeared like everybody else."
In the original Left Behind, they didn't even show the moment of rapture. It just cut to the next scene, and the next scene, people were gone. In this movie, we actually see it in the blink of an eye. It just kind of, people just go boom, just disappear.
I thought that was
And here's
in the manner of speaking, that was a little chilling, sort of.
that was an interesting concept. She was holding her brother, and the brother disappeared. My question is, how did anyone in their right mind immediately assume that they had gone somewhere else when their clothing was right there and she was literally holding him when he disappeared?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, unless she had some sort of weird brain thing, where in the world
Could they be,
would they
right?
have gone? And how did where are all these naked people? Is my question.
Understandably, I think people's logic would go, they have to be somewhere else. They can't possibly be nowhere.
Right.
So I think it's okay. I think I give the movie a little bit of leeway when it comes to people searching for their loved ones and going a little crazy, because logically in a situation like that, you're thinking, okay, they got to be somewhere. They can't be nowhere.
Well, there was it kind of like hit ahead when that black lady was like convinced that her husband had stolen her daughter.
Oh yeah, she got the gun out and she was.
He pulled a gun out of her ass and pointed at everybody.
No. I think that they were suggesting the gun came from the airplane. What do you? Yeah. The cop on board the flight.
Right. So Liam Neeson got raptured.
They don't explain it until well after the fact, where there's just a tossed off line. Was that the air marshal's gun? Oh yeah.
Yep. It's like, oh, I forgot about him.
Oh, well, it's a good thing we mentioned that. Otherwise, it'd be a plot hole.
That felt like a correction, like that the screenplay didn't mention it, and then they were like, someone on set, like Nicolas Cage. It dawns on me, he would think, hey, where'd the gun come from? And they're like, oh shit, we didn't think.
No, that would have been the actress. She's like, it's like cut. It's like, so where the fuck did I get this thing anyway?
Oh
Well,
yeah,
somebody
we
just
forgot about
handed
that.
it to you. You remember that, right? Somebody off screen handed it to you so you could hold it up. Like, no. In the story, where the fuck did I get this gun? Oh, shit. And
It reminds me of that scene in Thank You for Smoking where they're talking about inserting smoking into a movie, and the the character says something like, "Smoking in space, wouldn't an all-oxygen atmosphere like make the spaceship explode?" And he says, "You know what? We can write that away. We'll just have a toss-off line. Like, wasn't it great that we invented the blah 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 blah?"
Well, at least they're thinking ahead. I mean,
Right.
fuck.
Right. I definitely agree with you, Bill. That definitely the scene in the cockpit where it's like air marshal. Yep. That was definitely felt like a a reactive addition to the script or to the film. Like, I almost feel like they filmed the whole movie And he's like, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Like, shit.
And then they had to go back and do some...
Call Nicolas Cage and Chad Michael Murray. Fire up the plane set again. We got to do this 5 seconds.
No, the thing is, they probably went to Nicolas Cage's office or home and just shot him on a green screen and just kind of photoshopped him in to the set.
I don't think his mouth was on site. Like, I don't think his mouth was in sight for that shot, so it could have been looped in.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
The camera was pulled back. He could very well have just dubbed it in, yeah.
But what I was getting at was that...
One of my favorite bits of looping in...
I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
I'm sorry. One of my favorite moments in looping history is in Evil Dead 2. In Evil Dead 2, there's this moment where... The moment where his character is supposed to remember to go to to go to the barn out back, and he looks at the screen and you hear the Bruce Campbell's voice go, "Work shed."
That's not him though.
Watch it. Right. If you watch his mouth doesn't even move. He just walks, and you hear "work shed," and that's kind of what it felt like. It had that clearly dubbed in.
It could have very well been that case with Nicolas Cage in that particular moment, and that would explain a lot as far as them making up for the fact that they didn't explain it before or do some kind of extra. That's the thing. You didn't even need that loop. You could have just put in a second unit shot of the gun next to the air marshal's clothes, and just been like, okay, splice that in. The audience will get it visually that there's a gun on the plane. We don't need Nicolas Cage we don't need to bother him from shooting whatever stupid movie he's doing now. Yeah. No offense, Nicolas Cage. But yeah, that would explain a lot, though. Yeah, that black woman with the gun, though, that goes back to everyone logically trying to make sense of this crazy situation. And that's where I give the movie a little bit of leeway. The acting in that scene wasn't very good. She was a little too over the top and stupid. But at the same time, I would expect someone to go a little crazy and a little mad and trying to come up with an explanation. Like,
aliens.
You guys must have... Aliens, or my husband must have paid you guys to do this. Where the fuck is my son? I expect someone to go a little crazy and mad in that situation. So... that I give some breathing room to.
I'm looking at the goofs on IMDb. Apparently, one of the mistakes is the first time Hattie addresses the plane's passengers, she speaks into the earpiece of the phone. I wish to hell that I'd caught that, because that would have been really funny.
That's almost like something from The Room, something that you can only pick up if you're really paying attention, like the picture of a spoon in the background, something like that. Well, what other goofs are there? Does it say?
That's all. I mean, it's other like implausible things, like it's like the commercial airplane in the film was much too small to plausibly be used in a New York to London route. Nobody gives a fuck about that.
No one cares.
Although it does say that the exterior shots of the plane are a Boeing 737, but a Boeing 737 is a single aisle aircraft, and this was a double aisle. So it's like nothing else that really exciting, except that the plane's wing appears to be undamaged in later scenes.
What I was hoping for as a goof was Nicolas Cage's hair changing from scene to scene.
I was a little bummed that Nicolas Cage's hair was relatively normal looking in this.
Yeah.
It wasn't an obvious wig.
Did you notice they didn't really give Nicolas Cage anything wild to do? Usually in every movie he's in, even if it's a stupid, mundane role, they give him some kind of an edge to his character, some kind of quirk. In this movie, the only quirk that I noticed was when he explained the problems with the plane to Chad Michael Murray. He takes out a styrofoam cup, he takes out a pen, and he's like, okay, we got problems here and here. I was like,
that actually, my audience laughed at that, and I thought that was really good.
That was a good quirk, but that was the only quirk.
I really hope that he improvised that, and I feel like he probably did.
That was the only bit of acting he got to chomp on was, okay, I got a styrofoam cup. He probably had that from when they were shooting in between shots, and they would put water in it, and he just, to hydrate himself. So he thought at one point, you know what, I'm going to use this in the scene. We got problems here and here. That makes me like a real pilot, right?
That was really good, yeah. I like that.
Yeah, that was kind of an intelligent moment. And
Yeah.
as far as Cage's performance in the film, first of all, I want to mention that the vast majority of the scenes in the film are just him in the cockpit. Vast majority, by and large. So I have a feeling that at any given time, Nicolas Cage, I'll bet the rest of the airplane set was somewhere else, and the cockpit set was probably somewhere very close to where Nicolas Cage lived. And
Oh, probably.
my theory on this was being Cage probably spent about a week maximum shooting those other scenes, and then the rest of the film, it's like when needed, they're like, hey, do you have a couple hours so you can come down and do a cockpit scene? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Did the check clear? Okay.
Are you serving lunch?
Okay, shut up. He can afford food.
I'm not saying he can't afford food, but who the hell's not going to take free food?
Well, okay, good point. But I mean, the
Look,
joke.
that's what's going to get him. That's how you get him to go down to film, is that you feed him. Like,
What's
yeah,
the
he
craft
can sure
service
as hell go and buy food.
Do you
But
remember
if
in
you
the
feed him, you're
do you
much more
remember-
likely to get him
Do you
to
remember
show up.
do you remember in the first Ghost Rider, his big quirk was he liked M&Ms?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was only like one color, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
He would like the blue ones, I think, or something like that.
Ozzy sent me down to the store and told me to get 500 brown M&Ms in a brandy glass.
Oh,
What's that
I'm glad you guys got that joke. That's
yeah.
I didn't know what it was from. I just thought it was funny.
It's from Wayne's World 2.
World 2.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, you know that's an actual. I'm reasonably certain it was Van Halen that had the
Yeah.
demand of no brown M&Ms.
Why?
Yeah, I believe you're right.
Well, what they claim, I'm pretty sure it was Van Halen, and what their claim was, and the reason why they would say no brown M&Ms was it was a test. Because what would happen is if that dish, when they found the candy dish, if there were no goddamn brown M&Ms in it, then they could be assured that all of their other requests were fulfilled as well. But the moment that it wasn't, they would, do a hissy fit and immediately start nitpicking and finding all of their other demands and making sure that, that they were fulfilled, and generally they weren't. So it's sort of meant as like a test.
No.
It still is friggin' diva syndrome.
Yeah, but the way you explained it makes it sound
There's a
kind of
logic
reasonable.
to it.
Yeah.
There is.
There is, yeah.
With that said, do we have any other comments about Left Behind? I'm talked out on it.
My only last comment on it is that when I wrote my review of it for Dig Baton Rouge, I'm now questioning my rating of the movie. I gave it. I think I was tired when I wrote the review, and I ended up giving it a higher rating than I meant to. I gave it
2.
I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and
Yeah.
that's a little too high. I think 1.5 or 1 would have been more appropriate.
Yeah, 2's kind of generous.
2's very generous. I think I was giving way too much leeway with regards to the premise of the movie, not to the execution of the movie, and that's where I should have been more critical. So I feel like I have to backtrack and go, okay, the movie's really more like 1 or 1.5 at best.
I actually ran out of beers to enumerate the reasons why I disliked this movie. I was like, in my original draft of the review, I think I was at like 9 beers.
I read that. I read that in your review.
I was like, all right, I gotta do this. So I asked Felix. I said, okay, what do you suggest? She's like, just do Fist of Whiskey, man. Fist of Whiskey, bro. So
throw a sidecar in there.
What I would have done is asked Zach to put in a second 6-pack pitcher. Because all it is just a pitcher of a 6-pack of beer. So just write. Okay, go after you go through the first 6. Write 6-pack number 2, and then this is why I suggest a second 6-pack, and then you just put the pitcher in there next time.
Yeah, that would have been a good idea. I ended up like condensing a little bit and adding a couple of beers together, but for a while that was the biggest problem with the review. Like I whipped through it, then I was like, okay, now I got to figure out how to like whittle this down to so I don't break the scale.
Ken, any final thoughts?
I have no final thoughts. At this point,
We're drained.
I'm drained of Left Behind. I've expunged it from my system, and we can go ahead and move on and say that Next week, we are going to leave it as a to be determined. We have a couple possibilities of what we'll be covering. We'll discuss that in the interim. And in the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us on tonight's MovieBoozer.com virtual pub. And you stay classy.
God bless you.
Okay.